Hey, everybody, welcome back to Chris Anderson Comics. Um, I'm Chris Anderson, and today I have a very special guest, my good friend, Adam Lemnah. Hello, Adam.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. This program that I'm using, it's super cool because you get the ticker tape, you can see your Instagram handle right at the bottom, but for some reason, I'm hearing myself moments after, and it's really disorienting. So hopefully, this works fine. But we're here today to talk about your book, Adam, Relic Hunter. Put out by Cosmic Lion Productions.
Yes, sir.
Um, and well, let's just get right to it. I am going to share the screen because that way we get a nice quality look at the pages of this book.
Love it, man. Thank you so much.
Boom. Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
So Relic Hunter. Let's just really quickly kind of say the elevator pitch of what it's about.
Cool, man. It's my homage to the savage sort of Conan, to 80s black and white outlaw comics, to heavy metal album covers, and Dungeons and Dragons fantasy art. You know, it's like everything that I love, and I imagine like you would really enjoy it if you were like sitting in your parents' basement at 16 years old with like you just put on a Black Sabbath album and you just hit a J and now you're like chilling. You're relaxing. Instead of you've got this in a pile with like heavy metal and the savage sort of and you're like, "Oh, Relic Hunter, I got to see what's up, man."
Yeah,
So,
man.
yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. So you're kind of an aficionado of the '80s black and white,
I love it. Yeah, man.
rock and roll comics. So you can really tell that this, as you guys will see, that this is like a love letter to all of that stuff. So here's the cover. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, man, and it is colored by our good friend Christian Misi.
He did an incredible job. He turned it around so fast. He did, there were a few tweaks that I needed him to do uh after his first pass on everything, but you know, by and large, it was just amazing. And did he brought so much more to it
Hmm.
because I mean, like the art is good. I was really happy with the way that it turned out, but like the way the values of shadow and light that he was able to build into it really add to it, and I was blown away.
Yeah, he actually colored a cover that I did also for Cosmic Lion Productions. I did the first issue of Arc. Was it the first issue? I think so, of Arcana.
Oh yeah,
The cover.
yeah,
Yeah, and Misi colored it and just did a really great job. I do not like other people coloring my stuff
agreed, 100%.
unless I get to pick them. I've
Yeah,
had stuff come back and it's just destroyed it. And I hate coloring myself, but I would rather
it's
go
hard.
through the hell of doing that
Yeah,
than having it
agreed, agreed.
destroyed.
I feel exactly the same way. Like color is really difficult, and it's a whole other skill set
Yeah.
away from drawing, away from inking, away from design and layout. And so, you know, it's nice to have someone like Misi that we can count on to do something like this. But
Yeah.
also, like, he's so good at it that he just elevates the material just by, putting his hands on it.
Yeah, the choice of that magenta night sky, and like the green background, it's not a choice I would have even thought to make, and it really pops.
That was the biggest thing for me. Everything on the cover, I really wanted it to pop off the page. It's a homage to a JRJR pinup that he did or a splash page in his Daredevil book with Frank Miller, and
Right.
I took that and sort of ran with it. And I was, like I said, I wanted something on the cover, following all these cartoonists for so long, something I've heard over and over and over again is that you want something like coming at you on a cover. You know what I mean? You want something that's going to jump off the wall. And so
For a
I
first issue,
literally,
sure.
yeah, I literally wanted something that was going to like feel like it was charging at you. And,
Totally.
it was Eli's idea to go with the yellow for the title.
Hmm.
And I think that really works as well. It like really pops off the page. It contrasts well with the magenta and the green. It's really nice, man. It just
I agree.
very very good to have collaborators that care and that are good at what they do.
Yeah, it really, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That it's really helpful to have a team like that and knows comics and like how to do all this stuff, because I've had plenty of projects where people come in not part of the culture or have
Yeah.
ever done comics but have opinions, and they just don't understand that that's not going to work.
That was the other thing.
So
I mean, like working with both of them, every question was, are you sure you like it this way? Is this how you wanted it? That kind of thing. And it's like, yeah. I mean, it gives you the opportunity to experiment, but also to be sure that you're getting exactly what you want. So,
right. So looking at this a little closer, I see like a paper texture on the coloring. Is that the actual texture of the paper, or was that added
that was
later?
added. That was something that I always kind of wanted to do. And the reason that I wanted that is because I wanted it to feel like you were finding it years later, like
Right.
it was old.
Hmm.
I wanted it to feel like in every piece of it, I wanted it to feel like a relic from the 80s. Like you would pull it out of a dollar box and you would be transported to, like a Ken Landgraf fantasy. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's exactly sort of what I wanted to do, and I wanted it to have that kind of feel. And so it was a question of like how much was
Uh-huh.
going to work. But I mean, I think we hit the right amount to like give it a nice texture without taking it too far.
I agree totally. I mean, I really couldn't even tell that that wasn't, you know, on the paper. So,
Right.
and you work traditionally, right?
Yeah. So my process for 99% of Relic Hunter was I'll pencil and Procreate,
Hmm.
and then make a blue line from that, and then ink traditionally. And at first, I was lettering traditionally, but it just takes forever, and my hand was dying. So
Yep.
I found I think it's called Graffiti. It's a program. It's a free program online, and they will they have like a thing that you can print out, like a paper that you can print out. You can you fill it out with the font, like you
Yes.
create your own font on it. You scan it, you send it back to them, and they turn it into like an OTF file, and it's awesome.
I've used one of those before, and it was pretty cool. Does it have the ability to, like, say you type a letter C, right, to randomly do like three different versions of your letter C, so it doesn't seem
No, you
it's
have to
just the one,
provide
right?
those. Yeah,
Right.
that's the thing. So like you can go up to I think it's like 64 characters or something like
Oh,
that
okay.
with the free with their free version of it. And so you can do uppercase and lowercase, you can do all the numbers, and you can do some punctuation. And
Right.
then it the font that I created is close enough to like Herculanum or whatever that one is called that
Sure.
if I needed something that I didn't have, I could just use Herculanum for that, and it would fit right in.
Okay. Well, we'll have to point it out once we get into the actual pages.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But for like
I
for the title treatment, that's all by hand.
You
So
did that by hand. Right on.
yeah, so I took a like a like a Gothic font and then tweaked it. That was
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm not like a calligrapher, you know. but I knew that I
Come on,
wanted the
everybody's a
R to be like a
collector.
sword. I knew the I wanted it to be like like a jewel. I wanted certain
Hmm.
things in there, and I wanted it to have like a certain kind of flowing thing. So I started with the font. I added what I wanted to add, and then I inked it traditionally and scanned it, and that's what I used for the title tree.
Yeah, I love that feel.
It gives you like little imperfections, which I love.
Yep.
You
Exactly.
feel the hand.
Yep. Precisely. All right, let's move forward with this. Okay,
Yeah.
so here's your opening page. Um, let's see here. Created, written, and drawn by Adam Lemnah. Edited by Eli Schwab, our good friend Eli,
Yes.
uh, president and owner of Cosmic Lion Productions.
Yeah,
What does he
man.
call himself?
I don't know. Publisher.
Yeah, okay, there you go, publisher. And colored by Christian Misi. There we go. Really cool. So,
And then then of course we have we've got the main story, which is 26 pages long. We've got
mhm,
the pinup gallery, and then we've got a great backup story uh, that was written by Manny Gomez and drawn by Rick Lopez, and it is just mind blowing. So,
that's awesome.
and then
So it says,
there's like a short process scene at the back.
oh, right, right, right. It says, and Next Panel Press presents. So tell people
Yes.
what Next Panel Press is real quickly.
Sure. So, Next Panel Press is actually where Relic Hunter began. It's a collective of, I'd say, like-minded cartoonists. Definitely don't have similar styles so much, but definitely like-minded in our approach to how we make comics and the different kinds of comics that we like. And we all created a strip, and we put out one page bi-weekly on Instagram and Facebook. And so you can see all of Relic Hunter, all of the main story, Hawks over Aleppo, on Next Panel Press, and you can see the beginning of issue 2 is up there. I think the first 6 or 7 pages is up there now. So, and I'm working on that. Obviously, issue 2 will be coming, hopefully in time for LA Comic Con. So December.
Oh, sweet. So how often do you update Next Panel Press?
So it's bi-weekly. So there's
Bi-weekly, right?
groups.
Okay.
So we've broken it into 2 groups. So it's really every week you get something new. You get 4 or 5 or 6 pages of new comics from different stories.
That's really
And
cool.
it's awesome. It's awesome in so many different ways because it makes you think about storytelling in a certain way. Each page needs to feel like it has the elements of a story in a certain sense. Like you want to leave a cliffhanger almost at the end of every page, which
Hmm.
isn't always possible, but it really does make for like compelling storytelling, for compelling page turns when you get into like actually putting everything together. But you also really have to think about how you're going to tell the story because you don't want it to be like this. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, my first long form book, Lost Angels, was sort of released that way through Comic or Press, where 2 pages came out a week. So what it did is it it forced me to have to do 2 pages a week while I
Yeah.
had a day job teaching, um, and keep moving the story forward. So that was really helpful, and I'm assuming that it's sort of the same kind of thing with
It
this,
is
right?
absolutely. I mean, you have to commit to a schedule, and you have to follow through, and it really does teach you how to stick to a deadline, and you don't want to be the guy who is like up against the deadline every week,
Yeah.
because everybody else, I mean, the nice thing about it is there's a bunch of us, and so there are times when we can step back, we can put ourselves on like hiatus for a
Yeah.
little bit, fill up the hopper with more pages again, and then get back to the regular schedule.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
that's really great. And then it sort of trains, it's like almost like training wheels for when you do, if that's the goal, eventually become a cartoonist who does this full time,
yeah,
and you very slowly start out and then get rolling with, your pages and stuff.
you flex your muscles, you begin to
Yeah.
understand. I mean, like, also too, because I have a day job, because I'm not, able to do it every single day on a schedule that I would really prefer to do it
Exactly.
normally. It also teaches you, because you have a deadline, how to tell a story with that deadline crunch in mind, which is helpful.
Right.
Because there are times, when you're like, oh, I don't have time to draw this big whatever. I'm going to have to think of another way to tell that story, or like, I don't have time to draw these backgrounds, so maybe I'm just going to do some silhouettes, like anything that you can do to like make it look cool, but still get it done quickly.
Yep. That's the name of the game in comics. Like
yeah.
it's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah, and it's been really great. Plus, it's also, I mean, everybody in it, it's like a family atmosphere. All of us, we're all there for one another, and we're also there to, critique, give ideas, and we share with each other, pencils, inks, colors, anything that goes into it. If we're working on something, if we're trying to figure something out, if we need, like, oh, I don't understand how to do this type of perspective or something, like we can talk to them and somebody will know.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of like really incredible guys in there.
Yeah, that's really great. That's awesome. So by day, you are a editor, right? A film editor.
Yes, film editor.
Except for right now, we're in the midst of a strike.
Yeah, 120 plus days now. So not fun, but necessary. As a writer, as somebody who does creative work, we need to ensure that there's not going to be. What we need to do is regulate how AI is going to be used in the future of the industry, and we need to do it now before we have to do it retroactively. Because the way that the industry works is once something becomes sort of common practice, then there's no going back. So
yep.
Yeah, so it's difficult. It's this summer's been a difficult summer, but it's it's important, and I would I love being an editor. I think it's also very in a lot of ways very similar to being a cartoonist, because you're working with different lenses, different camera angles, different performances, and there's no we're working from a written script just like an artist is working from a written script. So there's obvious differences, but it's all about pacing. It's all about how to tell the story in the most visually clear kind of way. And
which is also what comics is about.
Exactly. And so that overlap is really it enabled me, like, having so much experience being an editor gave me sort of like a little bit more, like, I feel like I was able to more quickly be able to start drawing sequentially. Because I already had the understanding of how to hook images together to tell a story. And that's definitely helpful on every single page, because I bring like a cinematic aesthetic to it, or I hope that I bring a cinematic aesthetic to it. And I'm trying to vary, between close-ups, and medium shots and long shots, uh, trying to put in establishing shots and things like that. So, you know, I feel like it could have been more rudimentary at this point. I think you can definitely see a progression in the quality of my art throughout the book, but the storytelling I feel pretty strong about throughout, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Awesome. So is this the first comic that you ever made?
No, well, it's the first long comic that I ever
Right. Okay.
made. I did some shorter ones for like Wizard 2 and, just on my own and
Sure.
practicing shorter strips, like one-page strips and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Before I before I got into this, I'd say I was really drawing comics pretty regularly for about a year and a half before I started this book.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to start this book. When I started this book, I felt like I was ready to start something a little bit longer, telling a story that had a little bit more to it. And it just kept growing and growing. And that's one of the cool things about, about Next Panel Press, too, is like I had an idea for maybe 10 or 12 pages of story to begin with. And, when you get to the end of that, you're like, oh, well, got another page coming. I got to come up with something,
Yeah.
So then you just sort of like it. For me, I fell into a pretty nice rhythm of like coming up with how I feel are like chapters, like
Yeah.
8 to 12 pages long that tell like a self-contained piece of the story, and then we move to the next and move to the next, and then that doesn't preclude like cross-cutting or intercutting, but it's you know it helps break down the storytelling into manageable pieces for me.
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly the path that I took to get where I am too. And I think it's really good advice for anybody trying to break into the industry is not go right into your big epic, you know, space opera or whatever, but start
Yeah,
with some short stories, 8-page things, learn how to pace and tell a
totally.
story in those 8 pages, and then start branching out and build bigger.
Some of my
Because otherwise
favorite
you're gonna fall
comics
flat on your
are that
face.
way too, man. Like
Yeah.
Marvel Comics Presents,
Hmm.
8-page stories with incredible artists learning how to tell stories visually, or
Yep.
Dark Horse Presents. That was like another one that for me, I love anthology books like that because you're getting three or four stories, you're getting three or four different perspectives, different kinds of stories, and you're also, it's not as much as having to digest 22, 24 pages of story.
Exactly. Yep. Well, let's get into this thing.
Yeah, man.
So we start out with this little scroll looking thing here. It is an age of barbarism. Religious fanatics tear the Holy Land apart, battling for control over a land and people that wish only to be left in peace. Under the cover of darkness, a warrior enters Aleppo, his mind on the woman he loves and those who hold her.
Yes.
Great opening scroll, man.
Thanks, man. I wanted something that was going to insert you into the world
Yeah.
and give you the flavor. This whole page, obviously is a homage to the way that, you know, the inside of Savage Sword of Conan was set up. I wanted it to, again, it's another one of those ways that I wanted it to feel like you're finding something that nobody had found for 20 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and writing the scroll like that, it was a little bit like, it's like Star Wars or something like that at the beginning of Conan.
Absolutely. They call it the scroll, right?
Exactly.
And then you used a literal scroll. So, all
Pun
right, so here's how
intended.
we open it, right? Yeah, exactly.
And this is a
I
homage to John Buscema piece. Hawks over Shem was the name of a story that he did, and I wanted right off the bat, I wanted you to understand the world that we're in, understand the character, and I wanted to open with a splash.
Sure. I see a little bit of ink wash there in the sky.
Absolutely.
I see a
I
lot of
love doing
textures.
ink washes. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. For a long time, I didn't use markers. I would just use ink washes, but
Hmm.
it's controlling the tone of the ink wash is really difficult.
It
And
is.
so, yeah. So, oftentimes, like, things would end up drying a little bit more darkly than, or a little bit lighter than I would have expected. And so I switched over to markers about halfway through the book because they were just, I felt like I was able to have a little bit more control with it, but I love the way the sky looks with a good wash.
Yeah, that works perfectly. It really looks like clouds on a moonlit night. The what? So what tools are you using on here?
Okay, so let's see. Obviously, using some. I believe these are microns that I'm using for the thin lines. Using brush pens for some of the thicker lines, and also brush for some of the thicker lines, and then brush to fill in the blacks, and then white media on top of that. So I'm
Hmm.
using white gel pens.
Those Pentel or whatever they
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
And also, I believe I also used some whiteout with a brush, with a semi-dry brush for some of the Hawks over Aleppo too. I went over that with the Pentel as well, but I think I used like the base was like whiteout with like a dry brush.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then there's cross hatching in the wall as well. Because I didn't because I wanted the wall to have a texture like an uneven texture,
That's where you get
and
that white shining through there.
exactly.
Hmm.
And then it's white media to create the rounded edge there.
Sure, got it. And what about the rocks? What did you use to get
Uh,
that sort of
yes.
texture?
So, okay. So, the stones were those are brush pen for the cobblestones, and then I went in with Procreate and added the spatter to the stones
Okay,
because I didn't know when I was I didn't know what I didn't know when I was starting this,
right.
and so I didn't know how to tape everything off. I didn't know how to use um, anything basically, and so I knew that I could go in and get the right look for that in there. But that's really, I want to say that's really the only digital touch up that I did on this page at all was really
Hmm.
just that. Like the grass is all brush and it's microns for the shadow in the water that's running through the middle of the street there, and then
Nice.
brush for the ivy
Right.
in the background there.
That's really
And I
cool.
had to
Okay,
get
so
that wall texture,
yes.
that like that weird hatching wall texture that you get in like Barry Windsor Smith Conan books.
I use that. I use that all the time. It's a great
I love
texture.
it, man. It's such a great
Hmm.
texture. I will tell you though, I learned so much on this page. And one of the things that I learned was like I drew the lines for the wood paneling and things like that, and for the walls too straight. I used a straight edge for everything in
Hmm.
perspective, and I was like, and then I was so happy with it. And then I showed it to the guys in Next Panel Press, and they were like, next time, don't do straight lines for wood because wood doesn't have straight lines. And I'm like, yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It
So
doesn't bother me.
yeah, I mean, listen, I'm still super happy with it, but
Yeah.
as you see, that's one of the things that you learn. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, how do I make this look more realistic and less like a drawing that I'm trying to make look realistic?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't use a ruler for anything.
Yeah, pretty much the
um,
only thing that I use it for now is for like panel borders, and
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
really it. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll use it if it's really, really necessary, but it's mostly because I'm lazy.
I also like, I mean, like, I struggle with it because there's like a part of me that wants it to be like ultra perfection, like Brian Boland level perfection on things, but I'm just, I'm never going to get there. So, like, I kind of have gotten to love like a little bit of waviness in the line, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. There already is a Brian Boland.
Exactly.
Don't need to be two. All right.
Very true.
So we got our guy here. He's our relic hunter. He's walking up on a knight here, and we are in Aleppo. We've established where we.
Yeah, we are in Aleppo, and now we jump inside a tavern. You've got the prototypical topless dancing girl. You know,
Yeah,
guys
guy playing
drinking,
kind of a lyre or a lute or something.
some sort of stringed instrument. And again, it's like I've always been a huge fan of fantasy movies, and this is sort of like stereotypical of those types of films and stories and comic books. You have your tavern,
Yeah,
and so and the nice thing here, or the thing that I built into it, was you see the guards, shadows, and then we pop outside. We get a little sound effect. We see our guy coming up, and he sees the dancing girl, and so we know from the opening scroll that he's looking for his girl, and we see these Templars, and boom, we're gonna get right into it.
I really like your chainmail on that bottom panel.
Oh man, so do I. And I had to give up doing it that way
Uh
almost right
huh.
away because
Uh huh.
literally took forever, and my hand
Yeah.
was destroyed.
Yeah. You're gonna get cramps real quick.
But I was like, I want it to look like an etching or a wood cutting or something like that. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like,
I do know.
and quickly you learn how to do these things a little bit more economically.
Yeah. Well, listen. You've established it.
Yeah,
Now you can back it off. It's not supposed to be the focus of this. Of the panel. So don't put that much time into it.
right, exactly.
Yep.
Same with
Are
the
you
cobblestones. I probably wouldn't do all the cobblestones, you know?
right? Right. But there's something really cool about it. It's very that very 80s black and white aesthetic.
Yeah. And I added a little bit of a halftone to shading for a couple of
Hmm.
things in here in Procreate afterwards. Um, and I like how it is, but I actually, almost immediately started to veer away from the halftones and just go for hatching and spotting blacks and
Right.
and ink textures. I don't know. I mean, as much as I am trying to like make it look a certain way, I did want to experiment with that look a little bit to see like how close can I get it to looking a certain way, but also what works in terms of seeing it in print and that kind of thing. And that was one of the things when I made the ash can of this, seeing the halftones in print, it just felt like a little bit like overkill with all the hatching as well.
Sure.
And I enjoy
Yeah.
doing the hatching. So
And this is a page that you hand lettered.
no. So like I went
Oh, okay.
back. Here's the deal. It was originally, but I
Okay.
did go back and re-letter everything for the book just so that
For
it would be
consistency.
consistent.
Got it.
Exactly.
Got you. Okay. All right. Very
I
good. So
also
he's coming.
did. I also did a little like editorial work in the dialogue and in the captions, just because I wanted it to also be. I wanted the these things to be a certain size, so I had to be a
Mhm.
little bit more economical because I had fit a lot more with hand lettering in there. It was just it's a little bit of a different approach, and I think that less is more was a good approach for writing as far as like captions go. It was a little too wordy to begin with.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're getting in. So we see his hand here. It's got some sort of gem in it and scarring around it.
And yeah, and you can see like the scarification is in there, and there's like some sort of like weird otherworldly language that's sort of
Written around
burned
it, yeah.
into his hand. It's a little bit Indiana Jones. It's a little bit that kind of supernatural horror kind of thing. And
Yeah.
yeah,
He has
I
the
wasn't
devil's
even
mark. Take
really
him now.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's I'm a big fan of like Robert Eggers' The Witch and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
all that kind of stuff as well, and stories of the occult and witchcraft and H.P. Lovecraft and all that sort of thing. So I
Yeah,
wanted to build a
folklore.
little bit of that into this story as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right,
So
so let's see here. She
this is my
spots him.
yes, and so really quickly, I really wanted to set up the beginning of the story as quickly as possible, have the meeting of the characters, so it's very clear this is who he's going after. He's in opposition to the Templars. We're going to have a fight. This is what's going to happen, because
Yep.
I find it sometimes when you are unknown as a storyteller, as a cartoonist, it's much easier for people to just follow visually what's going on. And so I tried to keep the dialogue pretty sparse at the beginning and the action pretty heavy, so that people got into the story.
Yeah. I really love the framing of that first panel too.
Oh man, I was so nervous that panel wasn't going to work, and then
No, it totally does.
yeah, you're like, that's her perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see her hair sort of like moving around as she dances, and it's
Right.
like, I just wanted you in her perspective. That's
Or
another
it's like
thing
her
that
armpits perspective, and then we go to the next page, and her hairy armpits.
that was what I thought everybody was gonna think, man. That's so funny.
Well, it's kind of a character. It's a character in the
Yeah,
story.
it is. I mean, this again, like I'm experimenting. I'm thinking about how to tell the story visually. And you can see it's like I'm still thinking pretty cinematically at this point. From the
Mm-hmm.
second tier is very much like
Yep.
film
Motion, like film.
stills.
Yep, like film
Yeah,
stills, exactly.
and I wanted to get that kiss in as quickly as possible. And page 3, we've got stakes already set. We know
Boom.
we've got characters that we can easily recognize, and now we can get into the action
And we do right away.
right away, man. Yeah, so I was a little nervous about having some full frontal nudity 4 pages into the book, but I mean, I wanted it to feel like you're reading Savage Sword of Conan, and maybe Savage Sword of Conan do full frontal nudity, but in '80s black and white comics they did.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is.
I mean, maybe you could have waited until the sixth page. But
She's already topless. I mean, what are you gonna do? Um, and so this page for me was really, I wanted to get in like that Frank Miller style, super extra close up on the eyes, extra close up on the hand grabbing her, and yeah.
yeah,
Again, this is like drawing also for a deadline. It's 3 panels, but it tells the story that I need to tell pretty succinctly.
yeah, yeah. I took a class with Howard Chaykin for his like paradigm lessons, and he said that every page should have a character staring directly at the reader to lock them into the story. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think that every once in a while it is important important to keep you in check, you know?
Yeah, I also like it because it's arresting,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
also in filmmaking they tell you that um, acting is in the eyes.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
how that's how you get it across. And so I mean, like, that to me is the most important thing. Obviously, like facial expressions, but you know, because my background is in film, that's where I come at. And I think you can see it. Like, the eyes are really important as far as focal points of each face.
Right. I would say that more important than his eyes are the eyebrows
Yeah,
here because they are busting out of the panel.
yeah, man.
They are
He
coming at you.
I had one of those big fat um Japanese brush pens,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm just gonna go nuts on this. And it
Uh,
was so much fun. It took like 30 seconds to do these giant eyebrows, and I was like, they look, I probably will never do eyebrows as well again. You know?
I love it, man. I oh, did I progress forward? I
Yeah, no, this is it. Yeah.
okay. All right, cool.
It's a little bit hard to see. See, now this is, I think there's actually a little bit too much happening on this page now. It's kind of if I was drawing this now, I might slow the action down a little bit, but I maybe it makes sense. I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
So like we can see in the top left, he's got the girl at knife point, and then she stomps on his foot. He goes crazy, chops this guy's arm off, and then all hell breaks loose. And this to me was like, this was my first chance to have like that flowing, gushing black blood that is so
Yeah,
important for these kinds of comics.
absolutely.
And I also, I'm such a huge fan of John Buscema
Hmm.
and how he drew Conan and the expressive figure work that he was able to do.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I wanted to focus on learning how to do in this book was was really refining was really learning how to do good figure work, because like, I'm not like a super well trained draftsman, and so I'm studying the pages of the comics, and looking for different images that will help me to be able to create the story that I'm telling. So it's almost like, in a certain sense, it starts out almost as like a collage, and
Right.
then I'm building off of that and making it into what I want it to be. But
Absolutely.
you know, his his figure work is so strong. I picked up, this at Alex Delaney, who was helping me a lot at the beginning of this. Mentioned you got to pick it up, and
I've had
so I
that
picked
since
it
I
up.
was like 16. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just, really, this page was the first page where I really started studying it up close. And you can see,
Hmm.
like the shapes of the muscles are starting to be maybe a little bit more realistic. The shading is completely insane. But, you're starting to see muscles fit together a little bit more realistically. And that's what I was going for.
Totally. All right. Now we got this two-panel page where we're looking through the guy's helmet
Yeah, man. I mean, this
and
is
just stab.
yeah, I don't know what sort of sound do you put. I was so at a loss for this because I was like, I don't know what kind of a sound effect to put in there, like a
I like
squish.
literal sound effects.
Yeah, and so I was just like, oh, let me put stab, and then Brian Payne and I laughed about it for so long afterwards. Like, it's just such a funny thing, but it works, you know.
Totally. Yep, it absolutely worked. Um, yeah, I was just doing a late some pages right now, and it's like I'm realizing that I do a lot of sound effects in my work, and I was realizing that every sound effect was like a literal word of what they were doing.
I love that though, man. I
Yeah.
mean, it also allows the reader to imagine the sound that they want to hear in that moment, which I think is useful.
Yeah, there's a shot of somebody who's like dabbing their face off with a cloth, and I didn't want to show motion lines. It's not like a big action. It's a soft thing. So there's just a very light dab, dab, dab as they dab their face, like dab, dab, dab,
That's the way it should be. Yeah,
and it
yeah. Because
works.
like, it's not. What are you gonna put like? Like it's
Yeah,
just weird. Yeah.
or no sound effect at all. Well, the sound effect lends to what is happening in the thing. So
I also
yeah,
really enjoy lettering, like hand lettering,
yeah,
and
me too.
so anytime I can fit that in there. Plus, it's also, I mean, like great hand lettering frees you up from a little section where you have to draw. I mean, that's also super useful as a time saving measure.
Yeah. I'm working on a book now or a story now where I was asked not to do um the hand lettering in it. And that's sort of like part of my style.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're gonna add them in digitally afterwards. And I'm just like, why? Why? But they're the client.
That's tough. I mean, it's great. Hey, they're having you do the book. That's great, but yeah, that's aesthetically that's not my favorite, but it is so prevalent now
Yeah.
that
Like, would you ask Daniel Warren Johnson to not put sound effects in his?
That's what. Yeah.
Would you ask Paul Pope to not put sound effects in his stuff?
And that's the thing. I mean, like part of what makes this page, I feel like, so powerful isn't just the powerful movement and the spatter and everything like that, but it's also the lettering, where it's placed, how it's drawn, all that sort of thing. And I mean, like, you're not going to get that when somebody's laying it in after the fact. Like, you kind of need that immediacy.
Yeah, and I love this like Kelly Jones looking blood too.
Oh, thanks, man. I like drawing it in like spills, splashes.
Yeah. It's like a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
So this was essentially the end of the first sort of what I had written as the first sort of block of. So I guess it's like 8 pages or so.
Yeah, he's got it back.
So here I wanted to put a splash to start the next section, which I plan to be another action section. It's a chase. And so I wanted to give the readers a moment to breathe and then get into the next moment.
Awesome. And the chase is on.
So the chase is on. And so this previous page and this page, I started to feel like I was beginning to level up art-wise. Like my lines were a little bit cleaner. The pages themselves were a little bit cleaner. And so I wanted to do an open panel in this one, which I thought would be really fun for the chase. I wanted to play with more of an abstract background in a couple of these panels. And obviously, I mean, the boom, that's like, come on. Right. It's just fun. Yep. And I wanted to build it in a way that it wasn't just that the characters were interacting with the word as well, and not just like, they're not just in the panel or what in the word or whatever. And I also I wanted to start foreshadowing his next adversary. So it's a little bit of a misdirect on this page. You have this monk who's sending these Templars off after to chase them, but in the bottom panel you see the next big bad, who we're getting just a little taste of early.
Oh, this guy's sitting in the corner here.
Yeah. So he's hooded and you can't really see anything yet. But I wanted to like place him so that when we get to him, maybe you don't have like a conscious memory but you do have a subconscious memory of having seen that character before.
What did you use for the texture on the arm on the top panel?
Okay, so that's a screen tone that I got from that's I believe it's a deleter screen tone,
Hmm.
but it might not even be deleter. It might be even older. It's a scan of a screen tone, and it's like a burlap kind of.
Oh yes, yes, I have that. Hmm.
Yeah, and so I just blew it up real big and fuzzed it out a little bit to make it look like it was like wool, because I wanted to give him a slightly different. I wanted to give his outfit a slightly different texture than
Yeah,
the white tabards of the regular soldiers.
yeah, I love playing with textures like that. It's really great.
And then of course we have
Oh,
that's a screen tone behind him in panel 3,
right.
and
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we're running away from these guys.
Yep, we are running up, and this, I wanted to give a little bit more focus to the girl in this first panel, to his girl, and I wanted to push a little bit harder and try and create something at a Dutch angle and at some angles that we hadn't seen yet.
This
Something
is
that
I
wasn't
feel it. I feel
exactly. I wanted to have something that felt like you were watching a film, and it wasn't straight on, and it wasn't just like a medium shot, like we're seeing part of him and part of her, and we're getting a sense that they're actually traveling through space. And then, man, I had so many ideas for this page. And originally, this middle tier was going to be you were going to see him crawling up. So, in perspective, looking down at him with other people, crawling up or jumping across, from building to building and things like that. And it was too much. I couldn't, I just wasn't there yet.
I
I
hear you.
realized that I had bitten off more than I could chew. And it just wasn't, it was also not clear in the storytelling exactly what was happening. So I sort of rethought it and broke this establisher into 3 pieces, and then just had him run across it like a little animated show or something,
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great device. And I
It's
like how
become
you
one of my
broke it into
favorite
three
moments.
panels too, so you get the time lapse in it.
Exactly, and it's become, yeah, it really, it ended up being something that I really liked, something that a lot of people have mentioned that it works really well for them, and it definitely is something that I will use again.
Yep, put it in your
It
toolbox.
works so nicely
Hmm.
as a device.
Yes. And then we introduce this new guy.
Yep. So here's our new guy. He's a wizard. We saw him before. He was hooded and cloaked, but now he's showing himself and revealing that he knows our main character. So maybe we're going to get a little bit more backstory here. I don't know. I also, again, on that page, I was just trying to play with more textures. I'm a
Yeah.
big texture guy.
Hmm.
Texture of the wood, texture in the walls, texture on the hanging tapestry, on the wood, on the logs in the fire. Actually, that was like one of the most. I was so proud of the wood and the logs in the fire for so long. I was like, that's the best wood I've ever drawn. And this is the page where I really started playing with markers instead of
Okay.
washi.
I can
And
see that.
yeah, so I just wanted to be able to control more of the shadowing and the gray tones.
Sure. Yeah, the markers kind of act like a watercolor brush, but
In the
there's a
all
little.
gray and black and white, yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
it's very, very similar. And I use the
Hmm.
alcohol markers, so they
Yeah.
blend really well together.
Yeah, exactly.
This was a page that was a time crunch page. I was working multiple jobs at the time on multiple shows. So I was working on a Netflix show, a show for Amazon Prime, and so I didn't really have a ton of time, but I wanted to sort of kick off the next section here because this is going to be the next big fight. And I wanted to get a little bit of story in, so I hadn't done a page that was just two people talking.
Yeah.
And so this is what you get when you have like 2 days to put something together.
You need to have in an issue. You have to have these pages that give you a rest.
Yeah. And I'm really happy with the way it came out because we have a moment after that chase to sort of breathe, reset, and get ready for the next section.
Precisely.
And we get a little bit of exposition. We're not to the full exposition dump yet, but we're beginning to learn a little bit more here.
Okay.
This is a page that I'm really proud of. Took a long time with all these speed lines, which are all that is all measured out with rulers, and man, that took some fucking time.
Yeah, I will use a ruler to do that.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because the thin thick of it all was really difficult for me because I was trying to use a brush pen with my ruler, and it wasn't. I was getting like bleed.
That's a skill.
In my practices, I had lifted it up, I had raised it up, but I was still getting bleed, and it wasn't looking the way that I wanted. So, for these in the third panel for the thick lines, I ended up using a Sharpie for those, which I never do, but
it's a tool.
Sometimes you got to do it.
Yep.
And I just I wanted to have a crack of doom. I wanted to have some I wanted some Kirby crackle in there, and I wanted to see something magical happen at this point, something supernatural. And I wanted to bring in the jewel that we had seen earlier. So we see him cast fire with that for the first time. And we see that his enemy has got something of equal and opposite power.
Right. And we're finding out that these two know each other, right? They have a history.
They have a history together. They've fought together and against one another before, and so we're starting the story sort of like as Tarantino would suggest, or as a television writer would suggest, in media res, and right in the middle of things, and then we'll circle back around later and get some backstory.
Sure. Look at this panel.
So here's where we kick off the next big, section, which is going to be through a portal and into outer space. And for this page, for me, more than anything else, I wanted to play with shadow and light and see how much black I could get away with on a page. Yeah. See how much I could spot black without it being too much. And I think it's too much. But, it works, but it's too much.
Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. I think that because the way the light source is that he's blasting it out like that, it would be lit back here. And the focus is supposed to be on, the blast of fire. So I think it works.
I was also starting to play with perspective, drawing figures in perspective. And so you can see that he's a little bit chunkier and she's a little bit chunkier than normal, because I was still trying to get that down. Like, how do I fit them in this space?
Right. Yeah.
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 But, I was also using like action figures and drawing mannequins and stuff to try and figure out how to do that like weird back 3/4 angle as well.
Yeah. Whatever tool you need to get there,
Yeah, man. And, it's like everywhere in this book, I just, in the back of my mind all the time, I'm like, I don't want it to be just a medium shot straight on. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like I just always want to play with, you know, angles, and because that's how a good film is shot, you know?
Yeah, and you can feel your progression in this book, like you had said earlier, because I think the first few pages were a lot of profile shots and a lot of straight on shots, and then at this point you're starting to really twist it.
And then
Oh, okay. So this isn't going to work because this is a double page spread.
this is a double page spread. So here, I'll pull it up in my copy here so we can see.
We're getting cosmic now. So you're
Yeah,
doing some Kirbyisms here.
definitely. This was homage in a lot of ways to Kirby, with the foreshortening, with the Kirby crackle, you know, in outer space,
Yep.
just, you know, characters in perspective floating through space. And that, you know, once again, always trying to up my game in terms of like skill of drawing on each
Hmm.
page. And also trying to play with the white media here.
Hmm.
And I wanted the stars to really start to feel like, you know, clumps and clusters, but also like, I don't know, like I wanted it to be a texture in and of itself. And you'll see as the book goes on, I kind of get more and more OCD and insane with the
Yep. There
stars.
we go.
But yeah, as you can see. But I wanted it to feel that way a little bit, you know, like I wanted you to feel like you were in that space. And this is like, you know, I was reading a lot of Frank Miller Daredevil at this point, and when I was drawing this, and so I really wanted to do some of those really thin, tall panels, but I had literally no idea how to fit things into those panels. And then it's sort of like one day I was working on this page and working on this page and trying to draw it, and then somehow it fell into place how to get the perspective within that small space to be able to not just be like straight on something. And then it was just like, okay, now it's on. You know,
Right.
now I get it. Like we're drawing with depth. You know what I mean? And that
Yep.
really that I don't know. It's such a small thing. It doesn't seem like it would, like it seems so natural drawing with depth, you know,
And I
but
think
like
that I think serendipitously you reached that point in your art in this story right when you are moving to the spot where things are floating and moving around in space.
exactly. And I wanted it to feel like there was distance and
Yeah.
movement, and that like it was almost kind of difficult for them to maneuver in this space as well, because it's like a different, you know, you're not walking towards someone, things are floating around, it's difficult to get to somebody to, so they're flying, you know. I don't know,
Hmm.
I wanted to have fun, I wanted to draw somebody flying.
It works.
This is the thing, man, most of this is like, okay, I want to draw this, how do
Hmm.
I fit it into the story?
Yeah, well, there's
No,
a
like I
lot of
want to
stories.
draw like there are certain techniques that I wanted to try, and certain types of things that I wanted to
Hmm.
draw, and so I wanted to tell a story where I could fit those things into it.
Yep.
And I feel really strongly that like you should always draw what you want to see. Like the book that you want to see, that's the story that you should tell.
Hmm.
You know, because that to me it feels like most authentic. Um and that's all I was doing, was trying to make a book that I would want to read. So
Exactly. Right.
so here we are, they're battling across, you know, the vast cosmos, and you know, we get them moving, you know, from farther away closer in. We get to see a little bit more of the space around them. We get a little bit more of their background. And yeah, this was a page that was really, really fun to draw. This was one that came out really quickly, you know.
With all those stippling too.
The stippling, actually, I'll tell you, you know, man, like it's interesting because it's one of those things where like Todd McFarlane used to say that he'd like call up his friends and just chit chat on the phone while he's doing stuff. Like that's this. And
Yeah,
so
it's
I would
dedicated.
be in like a Zoom call with like the other guys in Next Panel Press, and we'd all just be bullshitting, and I'd just be sitting there doing a million dots. But if you
Yeah.
can get into a space where you're not thinking about it, it's not that bad, and it becomes almost like a Zen kind of thing.
Yep. All right, now we're flashing back, right?
Yes, and so I wanted to go from darker panel borders to lighter panel borders. Just a little bit of a lighter palette here, all across the board. I'm not 100% sure that it works as a flashback. That it's 100% clear that it's a flashback. I think if I was doing it now, I would play with the shapes of the panels a little bit, with the panel edges.
Yeah, that's always a good way to do it. However, if you are reading the actual book, it's very clear.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, story wise, yes, of course,
Hmm.
but just visually, I'm always looking at this stuff with an eye like, how can I improve it? And
Hmm.
so that's probably, if I was going to draw this page again, I would probably play a little bit more with the layout
Yep.
to get it there. But I also, I'm really proud of this page. I really love, I love the circle inset panel, and I love the directly above panels, which were definitely tough.
Yeah, I'm sure. If you haven't done anything like that before, you know.
No,
All
and I
right,
was kind of
that's.
like, it was. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say that's kind of how I actually. Right before I talked to you, I was laying out some pages, and there's a flashback in it, and that's exactly what I did. Is I just sort of don't use the ruler for the panel, and that's all I needed to do.
You think about it, and yeah, sometimes I can definitely overthink things as well.
Hmm.
But I was trying to like stay subtle with it here, and I think it's one of those things that you learn as you draw more. You know,
Yep, of
draw
course,
more pages.
like anything else.
Exactly. And I mean, like, I'm this page I'm super proud of because I have this interesting kind of abstract third panel, sort of like almost like Steranko inspired kind of weird foreground wood, and then background with the just the abstract light coming through. And then this bottom panel, like, I was like, it's going to be really hard to draw him in pain like this on the ground, and I'm going to do it in
I think you really
perspective.
get a good job of him arching his back like that.
That was the most important thing to me, was to get like his arch of pain in
Hmm.
there. Like his feet were like beating against the stone floor. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and I
So
like the black, blood underneath him, but then you ink wash it out as it dilutes as it goes, further away.
yeah, man, I wanted to be gross on this
Yeah,
page, and I wanted it to be like, like you see him, you're getting introduced to a very different version of our character. He has no beard. He's
right.
weak. He's wounded. He's dying, and there are two people that we don't know that are very intent on making him into something else. And so,
Right.
I was hoping that by kind of changing the design of his character, and really having like an emotional kind of physical moment here at the bottom, that it would help people ease into this new section a little bit
Right.
better.
You kind of don't know who this is at the bottom as you're reading the story, but it becomes clear as you go on. And I think
Yeah,
that's not, I don't think that's a bad thing.
no, but I agree with you. And it's something that, I should have thought about more when I was writing the actual dialogue and all
Oh,
that
I
sort
thought
of
it was
thing.
a
But
choice, and I thought you were really smart.
Well, I was.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
Just
take
stop talking, Adam. Stop talking.
done.
All right, so we're moving on.
This page is pretty simple. This is a talking heads page, but I wanted to at least make it somewhat interesting.
Yeah.
So I've got them, classic walk and talk. You got your close ups, and then we see him open up this weird electronic, almost like alien robot arm that he has, and that I guess is like air sealed
Okay.
because it makes the
Yeah.
and he
Yeah,
rips a jewel out of his arm.
those bottom panels feel super Ninja Turtles to me.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I totally had that in mind. Actually, it's this character is sort of like my Shredder in a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I wanted him to be, mysterious armored master, and there you have it.
All right, so he pulls out this jewel.
Yep, we got a little
So
bit more
now,
talkie talkie.
yeah, yeah. So now when you see him on the ground there and you see the dark around his eyes, you start to kind of really get and with the context of the jewel, you get what's going on.
Yeah, now we're in here. It's gross, and we can see that there's some sort of offer. There's power. Yeah, I don't know. I really want again. Like I really wanted to get one of those close ups on the face
Hmm.
of the hooded man, so that we could see that he's sort of like suffering because of the effects of this jewel. We've seen it a little bit on our guy before, like we've seen the black sort of like running up his arm, but this is a much more advanced case of whatever it is that he's got.
Right. Look at that fingernail in that middle bottom panel.
It's gnarly, right?
Yeah, it's great.
This was a fun page to draw. I was looking at tons of Kelly Jones Batman when
Yeah.
I was drawing this page, and I feel like it really came through. And one of the things that I was looking at it for was for the way that he's able to like create these like almost cartoonish facial expressions
Hmm.
on people, and but they don't feel unreal. They feel like a type,
Yes.
And so I really wanted to make our main character's face like as abject as possible here, and give his perspective on like this power that he wants to that he's being offered, but the fear that he has, and also the power of this guy who's offering him this power, but also how kind of weird and gross this dude is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I this page was super fun, man. Oh, this page. Okay.
Do you want me to go back to the other one?
No. This page is good.
Okay.
Um, so this was a huge experiment of a page. I wanted a page that could be read in any direction, and start almost anywhere. Um, uh, that sort of gave us the transformation moment that is sort of like part of all these stories.
It's
You
like a
know
fever dream montage kind of thing. Hmm.
exactly. But I didn't want to. I wanted to break out of like square panels.
Yeah.
I wanted it to feel like the jewel was like radiating out, like you're seeing it pressed into him, and we're seeing this radiate out into him and do different things to him. So there is a change that he's undergoing.
Yeah, I really like it. The thing that popped into my head, I hate doing this. Maybe okay, I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna say, but I do notice, like in like the bottom panel here, where with the chest, and then back here on this page too, this very middle panel feels very like Charles Burns to me.
Thank you. I mean, I take that as a huge compliment. I wanted it to feel organic and
Yeah.
body horror.
Yep.
And
And he's very good at that.
exactly, he's the master of that stuff. And I mean, like the veins that you can see both on that previous page and on this page, it's all brush. It's all brush
Hmm.
work, you know?
Yep.
And it's so much fun to do that kind of thing because you're just sort of noodling it out and, you know, really enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
But with the brush, you can also really, it gives you, I don't know, for me, I feel like I'm able to get more of like a flowing kind of rounded feel where it feels like it's moving under the skin.
Yeah. Yep. It's the folds and all the thing. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, man, this is another page. There are things about this page I love and things about this page that I don't love, but overall, this is one that I'm really, really happy with. Like, I think his hand's a little too chunky in the second panel. Like, I'd probably scale back the chunkiness of it, but in a way, I kind of like love it for that chunkiness and because of
Yeah.
the
It's
hatching.
exaggerated. It's storytelling.
Exactly.
You can put some squash and stretch in things and not break the reality of
That's it. And
it's not reality anyway. So
exactly. And I was really I was in that mindset at this point where I was like, I just want to play with, like, I was starting to feel much more comfortable with anatomy and putting the physical form into different positions and with different angles and things like that. So feeling more confident, I felt like I wanted to play with that a little bit more. And so like that middle panel is one that I'm super proud of. Like the bottom three panels, I'm just so super happy with. And that bottom right one, I just had so much fun.
Yeah. I think it all works pretty well.
Yeah, this is one of my most favorite pages. It just yeah, man, it works. It feels good.
Yeah.
Like it's clear.
When that happens. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like one of those pages where you're like, yeah, the storytelling is really clear. It feels right. And it came out right.
Yeah, and these are those things that other people might not even notice, you know, especially since it's comics and people are buzzing through this thing. You know, it takes them 20 minutes to read it or whatever. But, you know, you feel like you've leveled up, you know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's like you were lifting, you know, 50 pounds for 6 months and then today you're lifting 70, you know.
Yeah, man. And I mean, like, it was really fun because, again, like, I really tried to give weight to the characters within space and also to, like, the sword in his hand, to the jewel in his hand. Like, everything, I wanted it to feel like it had some actual, like it was taking up space and not just a drawing.
Yeah, right. That looks great. Oh, damn.
Oh, no. What? Yeah, boom. There we go. So, you know, classic moment in a comic where the power that is killing somebody gets sucked back in and exploded right back out again.
You know, as it does.
Yep. And this page was actually interesting because in the third panel where you see him in the foreground, that was an afterthought. So that wasn't in my original layout, and it wasn't in here when I inked it. And I was looking at it when I was done, and I felt like the page just didn't have. First of all, it was the first page that didn't have our main character in it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like the perspective, like whose perspective am I in it? If this is just as, because of course you have to remember these are all standalone pages.
Yep.
When they get released through Next Panel Press. So I'm thinking when I'm making this, like if I don't have him in there, nobody's going to know what the context is unless they go back and look, and they're not going to do that on Instagram. You
Wise
know.
choice. Yep.
So yeah, that's a paste stub in the bottom right of that panel.
I think it's a really good choice.
It was, you know, again, it was like one of those things where I was like, the perspective is a little bit off and it doesn't work, but it, as a storytelling device, it does work.
No, it's perfect. Yep.
And this was just a really fun page to draw. Like I was just really super excited to draw like a flaming skull, a giant
Well,
flaming
yeah.
skull.
Who's
And
not
as you can
excited to
see,
draw a giant
like
flaming skull?
I was super, I'm really into the thick kind of like brush inking. And like, I really wanted to put some like super thick lines, super chunky outlines on this page. And so, yeah, because I work with like microns so much,
Yeah.
like that bottom panel was just, it's like, I'm drawing some chunky lines.
When I
Sometimes you got to
started
do it.
out, yeah, when I started out like drawing in high school or junior high, I got microns, and I loved to draw with the like 005 micron
Yeah. Yeah.
and just get as detailed as possible, and everything was, perfect and super detailed and
Yep.
straight lines, and everything was, super clear. Yeah, and as I got older, well, cut to now, I basically just use a brush.
Yeah. And
And,
that's the thing, man. That's what I love. I think I'm sort of moving in that direction a bit myself in certain ways, but
mhm,
also like it's still hard for me to let go of like wanting to have that like super clean sticker feel to something, but like
yeah.
you can achieve that with a brush too. And it's just practice.
Yeah, and if you have to do really tiny things, then you break out the microns and stuff like that, or if you have to hatch or,
Exactly. And
whatever.
this was interesting too because I had to learn a little bit about like how the bones and the arms and the legs fit together.
That Bridgman book is good for that.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. I was like, oh, okay, so back to Bridgman.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's a really cool page.
And
Okay,
so,
so now they're having tantric space sex.
well, all comic book
Kirby
fighting
style.
is comic book sex. We know this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, he loses his gem. Um, I wanted to. I wanted. This is the first book in a five book arc.
Okay.
So this is really like the prologue, if you think about it in that sense. So I wanted to start out in the middle of things. I wanted people to see our main character sort of like at his most strong and ass whooping, and then I
Yep.
wanted to take it all away, and so that the beginning of the next story he has to work his way back up again, and so here we lose, and it also turns the hero comic on its head. It leaves us in a position where it feels like all is lost. It's that Empire Strikes Back kind of feel,
Hmm.
you know and so we see the wizard rip the jewel out of his hand, and we see it go into his forehead. And I'm so proud of that skeletal hand in the bottom right, man. That was, whew,
They're hard to draw. All those little tiny bones.
yeah, man. And it's still kind of fudged in so many ways, but
Oh yeah,
yeah. I also like it
but
was it
that's
was fun
okay.
just to study that. Yeah, exactly. Like again, like this is a page with a lot of hands on it, and as we know, hands are a bitch to draw. you know, so it's good to get that experience.
Yeah. All right. And the final page of this story.
Final page, man. He blasts him through a panel or through a portal into what looks like the future. And
What?
there's a little Easter egg in here. If you look on one of the buildings, you can see Rick Lopez's Cosmic Cat.
Barbarian cat.
Yeah, Barbarian Cat.
I love it.
And yeah, so this is the end of the story. We're gonna, where issue 2 picks up in 1984 New York.
Amazing. So this book really, left me wanting more at the end, but in a good way, because I know more is coming. And luckily, because you are serializing it through Next Panel Press, people who read it don't have to really wait. They can already start to they get a
Exactly.
teaser, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got even on my Instagram. If you go, you can. I've got reels that have the first 6 or 7 pages of issue 2 put together on there already, so you can just take a look and catch up to where we are. And I mean, the second issue I'm super proud of. I'm working with Manny Gomez. Is working to write it with me, and
The main story?
the main story. Yeah,
Okay.
man. And it is, it's more like, this story was planned out in smaller chunks than that story. So that story is much more, it's a larger story, it's a longer story, and there's it's more complex than
Sure.
this one. Um, and I really hope that people can get on board. And like, I know it's going to be hard because this is a barbarian comic, and ultimately we'll get back to the barbarian. But I kind of wanted to take the series through all the different types of comics that I love, and I had to take it to 1984 New York, man.
Awesome. But that's not the end of the book.
No, not at all. No, there
So we got a
is.
pinup gallery right now.
We have a pinup gallery, and we can go a little bit faster through these,
Yeah, we'll
but
we'll we'll, we'll go pretty quick. So Anton William Blake,
yeah, man, homaging a Bill Sienkiewicz Conan piece with
very
this one.
cool.
Jesco,
Jessica Morg, yep.
yeah, man, just this is one of the first pinups that I got, and I was just like, this is amazing. Oh my
That's really cool.
god.
We got Tony Wolf doing a Frazetta.
Yep, this was, oh my god, just he just is so good, man. Like, every mark.
Yeah, that's really cool. Alex Delaney. Now I love Alex's work.
Ah, me too, man. He is, I mean, he's a friend. He is kind of a mentor. He is, an amazing cartoonist. And, he did an amazing pinup for me. I mean, this
Yeah,
is badass.
yeah. Go check out the Derelict if you haven't checked it out.
And he's
Alex's
got a
work is
new book
great.
coming that he's been working on with Keenan.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. I think I might have known that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's going to
really
be
cool.
awesome. I think it's called like Vengeance is for the Living or something like that. I forget.
That's a great title. It's a great title. Brian
Brian
Payne.
Payne, the old classic Indiana Jones homage.
And Ken Landgraf, the
Ken
godfather
Landgraf,
of
man,
outlaw comics himself.
this was the coolest, man. First of all,
Yeah,
he was awesome to work with.
yeah,
He was so good. He turned this around so fast. It
very quick.
was, I was, so just from a process perspective, seeing his original art is so wild because, I mean, I don't think most people know, like, when you see the screen tones
Hmm.
on here, these are like pieces of paper where he's photocopied the screen tones onto and then cut it out and inked on the screen tones.
Like not clear paper.
Not clear paper. No.
I see. I
Like
see.
Bristol.
So he penciled it and then laid it on top and then inked over the top of that.
Yep. And it's like
Got
a
it.
paste up. It's like a
Yeah,
paste
yeah.
up of it's just insane, man. It's the coolest. And he got the characters, man. Like, he
Yeah,
really,
totally.
like, I mean, as you would expect, but I mean, like, it's one of those things, like, when I saw, and he sent me his, like, the roughs that he did on tracing paper, so I'm gonna frame those. I've got this framed up in my living room. It's amazing.
Sometimes in comics, you'll be, you're working on things all the time, but there will be like months when nothing comes out with your work on it. And then sometimes on the same day, a few projects will come out. And I had this happen to me, I don't know, a few months ago. Um, Ghost Agents, the big treasury landed,
Oh
which
yeah.
I did a bunch of stories in that, and
Oh
so did
yeah.
you.
Yeah, just
Well, one. One's enough. and
that's it,
and
man. I've
and and I
such an
did
incredible.
a oh yeah, and I did a book called Revealer, which was a what do you call it? Like a companion piece to a movie that was on Shutter, and that came out from
Oh,
Full
that's
Comic.
awesome.
Now, both of those books had me, but both of those books weirdly also had Ken Landgraf in them. So he and I both had two books come out on the same day together in the same book. It was a really bizarre thing.
Man, Ken was just so kind. He very praised the characters. Really enjoyed doing it, and overall, I couldn't be happier.
That's awesome.
Man,
Yeah.
it's like getting a hero. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm. And then this is the original.
Yes. So this was sort of like what kicked everything off for Relic Hunter for me. I knew I wanted to do something that was sort of fantasy based
Yeah.
or something like that, and I just sat down and started drawing one day, and this is what came out. And people really responded well to it.
I'm noticing. I think that the screen tones that you have, because you talked about the burlap, and I'm noticing this sort of psychedelic background.
Yeah, it's the
I
marble.
Yeah, I think that maybe I shared my folder of Letraset
I
things that I
think
got from
so.
Japan with you, and we used the
That's
same
exact. I think
screenshots.
that you might be right, man. Because I've gotten them from like I downloaded them from Jim Rugg's Patreon. I've gotten them from Craig CK. Like
Yeah,
almost positive that you sent me those.
because every time I
That's
have
so
a friend
funny.
that goes to Japan, usually they're people who don't know anything about comics, but they'll go into like an art store and I'll say, just find the screen tones and pull like a bunch for me and bring them back to the States, and I'll pay you for them because they're
I
cheap.
love them, man.
And there's just so they bring back such bizarre screen tones because they don't know what they're picking out. And
And
this
not
is
just
one of
that,
them,
they have everything.
Oh
Any
yeah,
kind of weird texture that you can imagine, man.
yeah, yeah. I love playing with those things. Craig CK, Craig Kimball.
Yes. I mean, this is probably after Ken Landgraf, this is probably my favorite just because it's Archie Comics and I love Archie
Yeah.
Comics. And Craig is amazing. And he did this full color. And you can get a full color version of this as a poster. That's at cosmiclionproductions.com.
I'll put the link
But
up.
yeah, I absolutely, I love this. This is a homage to a Conan cover, and it's amazing. And
Love it.
it says his hand fucking hurts.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it does.
It's the greatest, man. I love Craig, dude.
It's kind of what the book is about.
Exactly. Yeah, he knows.
Yep. And then Jerome.
And then Jerome, man. Obviously, this is on a backing board with ballpoint pen.
Yep.
And it is one of my favorites. Again, I mean, I just love Jerome's work is so energetic, and I love his line, man. It's alive.
Yep.
You just see it coming off the page, man. Like it's just so fun.
He'll make art with anything. This is clearly like a ballpoint pen or something.
Yeah, man. It's ballpoint
He
pen.
does insane etch-a-sketch.
Oh, the etch-a-sketch stuff is amazing.
And his choreographed fight scenes are second to none because he's a fighter.
Yeah, the guy knows how
a martial artist, I will say.
Yeah, the guy knows how human beings move.
Yeah.
On such a level that you have to have studied movement for 20 years to understand how to put that stuff together, and it's mind-blowing, man.
Love it. All right, and then we get into another short story.
So this one was really fun for me because essentially I went to Manny and I went to Rick and I said, look, I want to have a backup story. I'm a huge fan of Grimjack and Scout, and like Grimjack, I wanted to have like a Munden's Bar style backup for each issue, where I got to have a friend who could write and a friend who was an artist to come in and do something set in the world and put their own spin on it. And all I really did was I did a little editing of the story to just basically bring it in line with the rest of the book, but that was it. And I got to see these pages as they came through, and it was
Amazing.
super fun.
I love Rick's artwork.
I mean, they killed it, man. They absolutely killed it with this. Rick's artwork is on another level here, man.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another double page spread here.
Oh yes, show us. So I'll show you the other side here too. This goblin.
So this double page spread took forever because there's about 20 small panels of different actions going on at the same time, and it is whew. Yeah, this was condensing a lot of action down into a single 2-page. This probably could have been about 6 pages.
Is this the same bar that she was being held in?
I mean, no, but yes, sure.
Okay, all right, it's in the same world, right?
Yeah, same world.
So here's another example of how you can break out of your regular style to add a comedic sort of flair to things. And
exactly, man. Yeah. I love the cartoonishness.
Yeah, because these guys are
the laughing here. Cool. And one of the things that I had sent to Rick when we were initially talking about it was this Paul Galassi Conan.
Okay.
And it's got this really fun fight at the beginning, and as you can see, this is something that we talked a lot about.
Here, let me pull in terms of like so you can see it.
Yeah. So you can see like we're definitely, he's homaging this Galassi stuff, and he's also building in his own style, and it's just really this is one of those weird like Marvel graphic novels from the 80s that definitely worth picking up. Conan and the Skull of Set. Yeah, fun book.
That's cool.
All in color. Cool. And I believe it wasn't Galassi that colored it, but it was Doug Munch that wrote it. So it's like the classic Doug Munch, Paul Galassi team up. So yeah, I mean, Rick really brought a whole new aesthetic to everything here, and it's different, but in the same world, and I love it, man. And I love the action. I love the sound effects.
And of course, Manny knows. Oh yeah, and Manny knows the voice of like a Conan Sword and Sorcery book.
That's one of the things, man. Like, and that's why I asked him to come on to issue 2 and work with me on the story for it, because he's got a lot of the same aesthetic that I have in terms of the things that he likes visually, and he also storytelling wise likes a lot of the same things, and so we were able to have a common sort of vocabulary for writing the story. And he brought a bunch of stuff to it that really like it just enhances it, man. Like I love working with other people. Collaborating is what I do regularly. And so it feels natural to do it for this. It was actually much harder working by myself, which I know a lot of people prefer that, but like
yeah, we're the opposite.
Yeah.
That's why I don't make films.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though. I mean, there is a certain level, there's a certain point where you learn to like let go of, I don't want to say ego, but let go of like preconceived notions about your personal preconceived notions about what a story might or could be. And when you open your mind up that way, I mean, it's necessary in filmmaking. So I've just kind of become
Hmm.
used to it.
Yeah. I'm not a controlling person in life, but in my creativity, I need to control
Hey,
it.
everybody has a different approach, man.
Oh
That's,
yeah.
you know,
There are
that's what
many
makes
different
comics
kinds
so
of
awesome.
people.
And
Which
so
is
yeah,
really
and then
cool.
after this, there's a short process section. Oh yeah,
Ah,
this is another pinup that I did, more like a movie poster kind of thing.
very cool. And then you got kind of go through with some of your other artwork and the build up to this, and
Yeah, just talk a little bit about, the things that influenced me
yeah.
and where my head was and all that sort of thing.
Well, when you get the book, you can read that.
Yeah,
We got an ad for all the awesome Cosmic Lion Productions books.
yes, sir. And then the final man, the coup de
Kevin
grace.
Catalan.
Man, this guy just, this is, again, right next to Ken Landgraf on my wall. Amazing.
Yeah.
I mind
Kevin's just
blowing.
blowing up. His stuff is just so good, and
It's yeah.
I had
It's
I
hard
had
when the
him
back
on.
cover's better than the front cover.
Oh, come on, man. Come
No,
on.
I'm joking.
I had him on the channel, and we went through Space Knights, and then we talked about Akira afterwards, and it was really cool to like get his take on all that stuff.
He is just so, he understands how to tell stories so well, and his art is so well thought out, man. Like he
Yeah.
just he has such skill with like I mean, like there's so many little things in here that from a process standpoint are just so amazing, like the use of like ballpoint pen in
Hmm.
here. You know what I mean? And the screen tones that have been scraped away,
Yep.
and the spatter and the white media, and yeah, man, it's just uh, I'm in awe. And he's really good at, I mean, obviously with Space Knights he's really good with this sort of material, and I wanted to give him the space to do something really cool.
I love it. Well, that's the book.
That's it.
7 hours
Whew.
later.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a long one.
We
Sorry,
talked about
I'm a
every
long-winded
story
guy.
in the corner, every spider like in the corner of the bar, and then the
That's it.
yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. That was a really cool, like a good hard look at that. So
I appreciate it, man. Really, a lot. It's as you know, it takes a long time to do this stuff, and when you finally get a chance to talk to your friends about it and have it out in the world so that people can see it and read it, it's it means a ton to really just see people go through it,
yeah,
like,
yep,
and enjoy it.
yeah. And so in the near future, when this is released, you will be at SPX
Correct.
in Bethesda,
September 9th and
Maryland.
10th.
Yes. Okay, very cool. And I will also be in Maryland, but in Baltimore at the same time for the Baltimore Comic Con. So we'll see each other while we're out there, which is cool.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to it.
Where else can people get the book?
It's on cosmiclionproductions.com, and the link obviously will be there. I have a link tree that's on my Instagram and on my Facebook, and it's at Adam Lemnah. You've got it right here at the bottom. And then I will be at SPX September 9th and 10th. October 28th, I'll be doing another film industry. Like I just did this film industry garage sale, flea market, outdoor bazaar thing, which is awesome. And it has like costumes and props and food and comics and original art, and it's amazing. So I'm doing another one of those on October 28th, and then December 1st through 3rd, I'll be at LA Comic Con.
Me too.
Yeah, man. So you can get your
Awesome.
copy of Relic Hunter at any of those places. And then, yeah, I'm just trying to get it into stores.
And just keep making more of them.
That's it.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, thanks for hanging out and going through it, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, dude. All right. Bye. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon, where at the $3 level, I'll send you my sketchbook, The Sketch of the Masters. And at the $5 level, I'll send you the sketchbook plus my mini stories, not Man nor Beast, but Moss, Stench of the Sea, and The Voyeur. At the $8 level, after a year, you'll get a commission. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter in the show notes. Check out my store, where I have lots of original art. And you can also buy books like Lost Angels, a sci-fi YA adventure about a girl who has to solve a mystery in a crashed alien city. Spectral, a showcase of fear, is about a sinister puppet master who travels from town to town telling tales to children who may never sleep again. You can request a commission at any time just by contacting me. Here is a list of the upcoming conventions that I'll be at the time that this video was released. And don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the video. Again, thanks for watching.